Now, let's look at the second thing that you should probably do. You want to start creating habits. Well, what should you do? Okay, so last time we talked about the most important thing you should do when you're starting self-improvement. If you haven't seen that video, pause this one and go look at it, because I would say it's important for you to know what your first step should be. Now, let's look at the second thing that you should probably do. The second thing that you should focus on in self-improvement would be creating healthy habits. And there are two books that tell you why. One of the books is well-known Atomic Habits, which says that if every day you do some kind of a habit and you improve 1% at a time in the thing that you're doing, at the end of the year you would have improved by, I think it's 38%. Yeah, if you improve 1% a day, then you should improve over the year by 37.8 or 38 times, which is a lot. Something similar says the author of the book Slight Edge, where he talks about how compound interest is gonna work in our interest. There he gives a story about how 1/4, if it's doubled every day, is in a month gonna be over $10 million, I think. I don't exactly remember the numbers, but it was something like that. So you want to start creating habits. Well, what should you do? What should you not do? Well, if you're creating a habit, you should focus on that it's something that's helpful to you. So you can start doing meditations, make a habit of reading books or anything else. Maybe you want to learn guitar, so you start playing guitar. You want to learn to sing. You want to run daily, exercise daily, anything. You can make habit out of all these things, and with simple steps. The first thing you're gonna want to do when creating the habit is gonna be, of course, choosing what you want to build as a habit. The second step is gonna be making it easier for you to get into that habit, which means if, for example, you want to get into the habit of meditating and your area, your space where you would be meditating is super noisy, then you just have to create some other area, some quieter area where you can relax and focus. Those are the most important thing for meditation. And of course, as you start meditating, you're gonna start with like 2 minutes of meditating, and slowly you're gonna move up the time and do everything better. Now, I was talking about reading books. Reading books is such a powerful habit to have, because in books you're gonna find so much information, really so much. I can't tell you how much information I've obtained from books in the last 2 years, 1.5 years, something like that. And there's just so much information. It's information packed, and you can find books about anything. Of course, you might have trouble of not enjoying reading the books. Well, I would suggest to get into reading of the books. You start by reading and maybe listening to something that you know super well and it's relaxing, and you can just focus on other things during listening to it. And then you start reading and you're gonna read for 5-10 minutes, and then you're gonna stare at an empty wall. Because when you're gonna stare at an empty wall, it's gonna be more boring than reading the books. And of course, you're gonna want to put your phone away somewhere where you can't get it so you don't get distracted. But just reading the book for 5 or 10 minutes at a time, and you don't even have to then look at the wall, just read for 5 or 10 minutes at a time, and then do something else. It doesn't matter. But you have to make the habit of reading the book. If you do it every day, in the 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you're gonna read maybe 1 or 2 pages, depends on how fast you're reading. If you're reading in your native language, if you're reading in some other language, if the book is information packed, how big the book is, how big are the letters, all this is gonna play a role. But still, read for 5 or 10 minutes a day, and it's gonna become a habit, and you're slowly gonna pick up this habit and gonna read more and more and more, and later you might end up as I ended up when I was in primary school. I hated reading. I didn't want to read anything, and in the 9 years that I attended primary school, I probably read about 9 or 10 books. I really didn't read at all. And then when I went to high school, I started reading mangas, and light novels, which, of course, I'm not doing right now. It's a nice start where you can start reading something that excites you and makes you excited, and you're gonna stick more to the reading. But after some time, when I was 1 year before graduation, I started reading books that I needed to read, or didn't need to read, but I put in a list for my graduation exams. So there were 20 books from all the ages. If you're wondering, I don't think this is how it is done in America and most other countries, but in my country, in Europe, it's quite normal. So I've read these 20 books, even though it was sometimes really hard for me to read them because they were so long and winding, and it just wasn't exciting. I didn't enjoy it that much, but I've read them, and then I moved to psychology books because me myself, I'm a little bit aggressive when I let my emotions go free. So I read some psychology books about controlling my emotions, and read about philosophy, and also read the Atomic Habits at that point. So that was how I got into reading. So you don't have to start reading the psychology and all these hard books to read from the beginning. First, you should create a habit out of reading the books, and then you should change what books you are reading. Of course, we can talk about the bad habits also, and you should get rid of as many bad habits as you can, but it can be hard. Bad habits are something we enjoy doing and we don't want to get rid of it. For example, playing video games. Most of our generation enjoys playing video games and doesn't want to stop playing. Well, how can we make this harder for us to fall into our bad habits? That's the question we have to ask. So, for example, in the video games example, we make it harder by either, if we are console players, we make it harder to start the console. We unplug it from the electric source. We disconnect it from the TV. We do all these things just to make it harder. We hide the controller somewhere, and by doing this we make it harder for us to do the bad habit. And after doing, like, for example, the first thing, we're gonna be like, oh, I don't want to do this. Nah, I'm not gonna do this. Next, if you are, let's say, computer player, uninstall the game and then you have to install it again. That way you're definitely not gonna want to play the game. If you're gonna have to uninstall it again, you're not gonna do it. If we take smoking, well, hide somewhere your cigarettes, your lighter, if you smoke. If not, don't get close to them. Don't create a habit out of it. Of course, there's the one habit that is really hard to get rid of in our generation. Probably even harder than playing video games. And that's beating our meat, and you should definitely stop doing that. And even I have a hard time doing that. I'm trying, and I have a hard time doing that. Even though I am quite disciplined, I have a hard time stopping beating my meat. It's just too similar to drugs. You're gonna get hooked on it and you're gonna do it always. So that's why you should stop doing it. So let's summarize what we've learned. You can create good habits and you can destroy bad habits. For creating good habits, you should do them every day. Start from a small part and slowly make the part bigger and bigger. Also, it's gonna help if you put the new habit you want to learn between two habits you're already doing. So, for example, let's say your habit is that you brush or wash your face and brush your teeth. So, and you want to make a habit out of flossing your teeth or cleaning just the spaces between your teeth. Well, you're gonna brush your teeth, then put in the new habit, and then wash your face. That way, it's gonna be easier for you to maintain it. And as we said in the bad habits, your task is to make them as uncomfortable. Doing them is as uncomfortable, as hard to do as possible. That way you're not gonna want to do them, and that's the point we want to be at. So I hope this video was again helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next one. And don't forget, try creating some habits. It's good for you.